Yes, sir.
Hey, Jeremy, can you, I cannot find the link to the presentation.
Okay. Let me see what I can do. Oh, I see you now.
Yeah, I just opened up, open the door up for everybody here.
Oh, I just recently. Hold on one second.
Good evening. Hey, everybody. Hope you can hear me. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen while we're waiting for everybody to join in. Jeremy, if you can hear me, just double check if that's the right list.
That's correct. That's good.
All right, we're good then.
That's a little better.
Well, we got 1, 2, 3, 4 council members.
Suzette's trying to log in.
Okay.
She's having trouble getting on.
Let me try and Coy said he didn't get it either. Let me see.
He's in. Coy's showing now.
Yeah.
I had to resend him the invite. So let me stop my share real quick with you guys. Go into my application and try to get everybody on the same page if we're not already. How's everybody doing?
Good.
I'm all right.
Cold today, but it was a nice weather day for sure.
Yeah. You could find a window that was sunny, you could maybe be warm. Otherwise, it was too cold. I was ashamed to say I drove my car about 1.5 blocks to go eat lunch today because it was too cold. But Jeremy and I walked around for a little bit.
I was about to say it's okay. We made up for it.
30 degrees is not good exercise weather for me.
But it looked nice outside,
It
didn't it?
looked gorgeous. Yeah, absolutely. I was like, good to take pictures, but looking forward to spring.
Ryan, is there any chance if we can't get Jerry Beth to log in, that you'd be willing to, if I could put you on the spot, take notes? And I
Yeah,
only
I'd be
ask
happy.
because I've seen you do an excellent job of it
I'll be
previously.
happy to.
And Ginger, if you don't mind backing me up on that, I don't see any reason we wouldn't be able to have the meeting with a quorum, even though Jerry Beth may or may not join us. I haven't heard from her, so I'm trying to get a hold of her, but
Yeah, I think that's fine. Anybody can serve as substitute clerk.
okay, thank you.
Substitute clerk. That sounds pretty important.
It is. It's very important.
Okay, good. Thanks.
All right, well, we've waited 5 minutes and I want to respect y'all's time too. So with a proper plan in place, Ryan, if you don't mind, I'll open us up with a word of prayer and we will get going, and I'll turn it over to Jeremy and we'll discuss the properties, okay? So if you guys don't mind, just bow your heads with me real quick. Heavenly Father, I want to say thank you for giving us an opportunity to meet and be with us. Help us make these tough decisions. Watch over the city. We pray for each one of the members on the council and ask that you give us the courage and the discernment to make the right decisions. And we lean into you. In your name we pray. Amen. All right. Usually, I guess like in protocol, Jerry Beth would go through the roll.
Sure. I'll call a roll.
If you don't mind.
Yes. So let me go by memory here. Haven't been in the room for a while. Gib Richardson. Not here. Miss Bridges
Here.
is here. Miss Elmore. I see you. Okay, there she is. Okay. Myself is here. Let's see. Ward 5 is Ephraim's Ward 5, I believe. Yes,
Ephraim.
Ephraim Jones, Mr. Jones. Mr. Hatton. Mr. Florence.
I'm here.
Mr. Butler.
I'm here.
And technically, I was supposed to ask if Miss Stewart was here first. Actually, I was
here.
supposed to ask if the mayor was here too. So it's
I'm
my
here.
first time. It's my first time. Okay. Mayor, we have a quorum.
And thanks for stepping in, Ryan, and doing
Yeah.
that.
Yes, sir.
Short notice. Okay,
Okay.
let me share my screen back with you guys because we have a presentation like we normally do and get that going. All right, so we're here for the first quarterly condemnation meeting of 2022. And with that, I think everybody knows the process at this point. Unless there's any opening statements or questions, I'd like to go ahead and turn it over to Jeremy and let you run with it.
Okay, so I guess we get started. The first three are a brief run through of where they were from last quarter or last year. So the 416 Washington and 116 North Front were kind of remained on the list to see how that went. 318 Harrison, we agreed to have condemned, so I'm leaving it on there just to show, yes, that actually did happen. So if we can go to the next slide. 318 Harrison, we all know where it's at. It's down on the corner of, well, it's on Harrison, down by the Church of Christ in that neighborhood. We agreed to have that torn down for $5,550 at the end of last year. If we go to the next slide, I can show y'all which one it was. It was this one, clearly open. We had nothing on that. So as you can see to the next few slides, it is now gone. And looks good.
Mhm.
Next one was 416 Washington, which is over by the Lone Oak Elementary School, primary school over in that area. It was also in bad shape. We agreed with the owner that they would have that taken down by the 20th, which would be this meeting. It is not completely done. I can show you where it is. You go down to see what building we're talking about. This is the one that we were doing at the start of last quarter's meeting. If you go down one more slide, this is where it was at the start of the last quarter's meeting, and we agreed to give the owner an extension to finish tearing down the property. And over that time, if you go down, you'll see where it's at now. It is further along, but it's still not complete. That's why I put it into a bid to get the bid for continuing to tear it down. That number was $4,700. I did send the owner another letter. If you scroll down 2 slides, that'll show how far it is from the side, plus the accessory building in the back. I did send a letter. This small portion up here on the top left is a letter saying that they would have it down. The letter I got from the owner saying that they would have it down by the 20th. I sent a letter granting that, the extension, and then I sent a reminder that's showing over here on the right, just informing him that, yes, you'd agreed to tear it down by the 20th. If it's not torn down by the 20th, the board was going to revisit the matter as a possibility of condemning the property. This down here is a letter. He's signing it that he acknowledged that he did receive it. And if you go down one more slide, we continue. We have the resolution that if the board wants to continue and go ahead and move forward and condemn that property, that money would be $4,700. I would suggest on that one we give him more time, because the bid for the $4,700 was for the stake that it was in that first picture. After the people went on it and bid, they did tear down another third or more of the property. So the $4,700 is probably more than what it should cost to tear down what is there now. So I would suggest if we could decide to go ahead and tear it down, we rebid it, because it'll probably be less money as it is now. I really suggest that we give the property owner a little bit more time to finish it. He's told me that through the holidays and weather-wise, it's taken him a little longer than he expected, but he assures me he will tear it down. And with that, I'll let the board decide what they want to do on that, or the council decide.
Is there a time frame that we're looking at?
I can send another letter saying that he has another set amount of time before we revisit the matter. I can do that. Or, as I said, the council is in their rights to decide to go ahead and move forward with condemnation of it as is.
I just wonder, are we setting a precedent if we've set a timeline in and then we're backing down off of it? It's kind of like we're drawing a line in the sand and then not doing anything with it.
That is
Ginger.
very true. I mean, that's true.
Coy, this is Ryan. I know I'm supposed to be the clerk, but I would also say that typically in construction industry, when we've had rain and weather delays like this, there is a consideration given to that, and that could potentially be documented, which is not to say that affects the entire decision, but I do understand that being a major factor over the last 3 or 4 weeks. So if we considered an extension, Jeremy, what would be your recommended time frame for extension?
I would suggest a month at best. I also would like to say that we do have to give notice if we do decide to move forward with condemnation, and the notice is 10 days. I would almost bet that if we sent a letter saying that we have voted to condemn it, he would probably have it down within 10 days. Just so it would not be moved forward. But that is my guess. Now, if we send a letter again saying we acknowledge that it was holidays and that there were weather considerations, we're extending you another 30 days, I feel like he would have it down during that time.
And I would amend. I apologize, Ms. Bridges.
Oh, well, I was just going to say, it's already been 3 months.
It has.
And I don't think we need to give an extension. I think we should move forward with the condemnation process. And if it does come down, that'll be wonderful.
Okay.
I would probably feel different, Ryan, if they were asking for an extension, but they're not doing that tonight.
That's an excellent point. The only other point I would make regarding that is, if, like you say, Coy, if we set a precedent, that I would, at least in this specific instance, be inclined to recommend we make the same extension for every applicant or for every property in this situation in this particular time frame. So not an indefinite, precedent, but at least a consistency within this one meeting. But I'm offering that. I'm not necessarily advocating.
Jeremy,
Yes,
Jeremy, have we had dealings with this same owner before and he has performed at our request? Or is this the first condemnation he's had?
I'm not aware of any before I came along. I know this is the first one that I've dealt with this owner. And I will agree that, yes, we did give a 3-month time frame, and that we did also send a letter reminding him of that time frame in the beginning of December. I believe it was December 9th, I believe was the day that I sent that letter out. So I do believe that the council is within their powers to move forward with condemnation, because I do believe that the 3-month time frame is a long time to get a building down. But to answer your question directly, no, I have not dealt with this owner or on any other condemnation, and so I don't have any. I can't say he's following through on anything that yes or no, whether he would or not. I have no opinion on that.
Is there a motion from the council?
I make a motion that we continue the condemnation process.
Second, Alice.
All right, I got a motion by Coy Butler and a second by Ms. Alice Bridges. Any further discussion, comments, or questions on it? All right, I think everybody's off of mute. Mike, looks like you may not be. We're going to go to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Okay, 116 Front Street. This is the trailer that is behind Dr. Scallion's dentist office. Kind of the same story on this one. This is what it was. before when we first started condemnation. The next slide will show where it was at the previous condemnation when we offered him an extension to have it torn down by this meeting. I did the same process. I sent him another letter to remind him that it needed to be completely done by the 20th. And if you go to the next slide, it's gone. There are a few things. I mean, you can see that there are some trusses that he still needs to get rid of. And then there's the trailer hitch for the front of the trailer. That was mentioned in the letter that I sent. I believe I sent that one December 29th of last month, December. Also, if you go to the next slide, same thing, the letter explaining that he has till the 20th. He signed, showing that he acknowledged that he did receive that letter. I didn't get a bid to tear down those things. I think, and personally, if we were to move forward with that, that would be more of something that like that the city could just pick up those items and move them and bill him for that. But I did not get a bid for condemnation on those three. I believe it's 3 trusses and then that trailer hitch on the front. It may be 4. There's one leaning on a tree. I didn't quite count that one. But those are the remaining items on there. And I did not get a bid to get those out.
Any discussion on this property? Any motions to be made?
Jeremy,
give-
do you have any, I'm sorry.
Go ahead,
Do you
Suzanne.
have any idea about what that would cost to remove those items?
I do not. I believe the way that we could do that is probably the same as we do with like a trash pickup item. I would think we could do a flyer saying it's going to cost this much to remove those items. And then if they don't move it, I believe we give them 7 days. If we leave a trash notice, then the city removes it and sends a bill. And that's kind of what I think would probably be a good idea on this one.
Given the history of the property and the difficulty of getting action on it, I think it would probably, I agree with Jeremy that the city should just go ahead and post a notice, and then if it's not removed, remove it and bill the owner.
I tend to agree with Alice. It's been a long process for actually many years on this property, and I think we need to finalize it and hold him accountable for it.
Just one point of inquiry on how the trash collection procedure works. Jeremy, could you explain how that works normally? If you cite someone for a trash lot and then do have to, if the city does have to perform removal and invoice the owner?
The way that we normally handle that is we will put like a door hanger on their door, citing the price for removing an item, stating that it's not an item that that the normal trash picks up. This is clearly not something a normal trash would pick up. So
Right.
we put a door hanger on their door, informing them that this is the cost for removing that item, and that they can either remove it themselves and bring it to the city or the city shop area to remove, or the city will remove it and just bill them. And they have 7 days to decide on that. And then the city just proceeds if it hasn't been removed by 7 days.
So the city employees or staff will go onto the property for trash removal.
Yes, usually it's an item that's on the curb in the case that I'm talking about. This is slightly different because it's not on a curb, obviously. But I would assume, and Mary, you can correct me if you think I'm wrong on this, that the city could go on the property and remove that.
I think that's why Ginger's here to weigh in on these types of questions.
Yeah, Jeremy doesn't agree. And Jeremy doesn't have the benefit of knowing that this has been a long questioned item. And I just want to make sure we have clarity on how the city chooses, if the city is at liberty to do that.
I mean, we could, but certainly liability is always an issue. if we got out there and did that and either injured one of our people on the property or injured him, the chances of that may be fairly unlikely given the stuff that's still remaining on there. I think the biggest thing is just giving notice to the owner one last time and maybe saying that, clean it up, and then cite the cleanup lien that has some pretty stiff penalties of, I can't remember how much per day, but it can be pretty stiff. Like, I think it's $250 a day, maybe, if you don't do it, and try to give him just maybe even just 30 more days, and then decide at that point, or decide at our next meeting whether we want to finish it up with city funds or city efforts.
Mayor, I make a motion that we give him the cleanup order, and then if the word on that law is $250 a day, that it would be $250 a day thereafter, as long as the trash is on there. If he requests the city help, we can do that, but if he doesn't, it's his responsibility ultimately.
Okay, and let me be clear about that. What Jeremy would do then is he would cite him for it, and then it would go before Judge Smith in Lone Oak District Court, who would then, she's the one that adjudicates the fine on that, but she can do the $250 a day and has done that in at least one case that we've had that was a outstanding one like this. So it's not an automatic Jeremy gets to start collecting $250. It's something that would still have to go through the court procedures, but.
Exactly. That'd be more a situation where I'm handling it from a code enforcement end and citing them for a violation of a city ordinance code.
So to clarify,
Right.
then no motion is required if the motion is not to condemn, because administratively Jeremy can proceed. So the recommendation could come without an official motion. In other words, city council does not vote to cite people for trash removal. Is that accurate?
Yes, I think you're right. I think maybe we could be giving Jeremy guidance, though, that
Sure.
the council wants him to maybe give him one more
Okay.
notice of finishing it up and then start citing. But
So
I think
the
you're right.
motion could be to defer condemnation to defer condemnation.
And I think that's what Coy's motion actually kind of was. If he wants to clarify more, that's fine. Actually, Coy, if you don't mind, could you just go ahead and restate your motion? Because you did make one. Would you go ahead and restate that?
Well, I did, but I appreciate Ginger kind of explaining that to me a little better.
Okay.
I guess I really don't know that we can see this any different than we did the house over on Washington then.
Mhm.
I think maybe my suggestion motion would be that we make a motion that the city gives him one more notice to finish the cleanup, since he is this close, and then give him 30 days to do the cleanup. And then if that doesn't happen, then Jeremy can proceed forward with code enforcement remedies, or we could start now, but this one's pretty close.
Well, I am pretty sure, and Ryan, you can back me up on this,
Yeah.
that it has still been like this for 60, 90 days. And that's the reason we kept the condemnation out there, as we
Yes.
were trying to make him finalize the removal process. And I don't think anything's been touched in that timeline.
That's
Is
my
that
memory
correct?
as- Yes,
Is
ma'am.
that correct?
Yes, ma'am. That's my memory as well.
And I would be opposed to giving him 30 more days when we've been dealing with this for years.
I would agree with Alice. So again, I would think that the motion is not to extend the time. The motion is to utilize the trash removal citation process in lieu of a condemnation, but the effect being the same, that it be removed immediately. And any fines pursuant to that citation would be incurred if they don't comply.
I
We
tend to agree. I think we've got to be consistent with these condemnations, and this, as the others, have just taken far too long.
Would anybody like to make a motion officially?
Ryan?
Well, would Coy like to make that his motion, and then that would be the record here? He's on mute, so. Okay. Coy, can you hear us?
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot.
That's okay.
I agree. I agree with you, Ryan. Ginger, I'm not exactly sure how to state that in into a recommendation. If you'll state that appropriately, I'll recommend it for recommendation.
I think, and again, don't let what I said about my opinion interfere with the motion I'm about to propose for you, which is slightly different than what my opinion was. But I think what you're saying is you want him to go ahead and go forward with code enforcement actions on it now, because instead, not necessarily a condemnation, but to go
Correct.
forward with code enforcement. Is that correct? Now, instead of giving the 30 days additionally to clean it up?
That is correct.
Okay. So just to restate, motion to move forward with condemnation actions on this property.
Code enforcement action
Yes, thank you.
with no extension of time.
Correct.
All right. That's my recommendation, man.
That's a good motion, Coy. I like how you said that.
Thank you. I got my attorney to do it.
I do need a second.
Second,
I've got a
Alice.
motion. I've got a motion to move forward with the code enforcement process from Coy Buller, and I got a second from Alice. Are there any further comments, questions, or points of discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I,
Any opposed? All right, guys, motion carries. Thank you. Moving on.
Okay, 105 Lynn Lane was another on the previous, well. No, Lynn Lane is the new one. This is one of the proposed ones from last month. This is new. It is on, well, Lynn Lane there. If you go down one, I can show you where we're talking about. This one, there was inches of straw on the top. There was a little bit of concern of leaking in the roof. It's a little bit of rotting on there, and the inside was a little bit messed up. There had at some point been a fire on the inside of it. With this one, if you scroll down one, I talked with the owner, contacted them, and they have done quite a good job. They have removed all the straw off the roof. It's been checked. There are no leaking in the roof. They have cleaned up the inside. Obviously, you can see they've painted some, cleaned up some more. There is an accessory building in the back that I'm working with that they're going to try to get that one down, and they're in the process of they're going to apply for a building permit to do a little bit more on the inside. This one, I'm satisfied that they've done a good enough job to keep it off of, or to proceed forward. I propose that we remove this one off of the condemnation list.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
second,
Second. All right, thank you. I got a motion to move. You said to remove this from the condemnation list, didn't you, Jeremy? And that's
Yes.
the motion that Coy made. So I've got a motion to remove this property from the condemnation list, seconded by Miss Alice Bridges. Any further discussion or points of discussion on this one? Okay, then, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
aye,
Aye. Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. Now, Ryan, I just sent you a message, but I do think Mr. Hatton has joined us. I don't,
Yes.
okay, good deal.
Thank you.
Okay, 415 West Fifth Street. This one is obviously it's just a block off of Dismukes. There's the senior living housing that's across the street there. This property's been vacant for years. There's been at least one that I'm aware of having to get someone squatting out of it. I did get a bid for this one. It was $7,125. I did get a letter from the owner recently. They have agreed to board up everything for the time being, to clean up some of the trees and whatnot on the outside. It's growing kind of underneath. And then in the fall, start working on, not fall, spring, start working on getting it in better shape. So this one, I'm kind of doing this, wanting to do the same thing we did on the previous two from last quarter, just to keep it on the list, but just hold them to cleaning it up and getting it a little bit better. But as of now, they are doing what is required as far as they're asking for a few weeks to get it boarded up, but that's one of the options of the condemnation is to board it up and get it and start working on getting it better. So I'm suggesting that we just allow them some time to do that.
Jeremy, what does the interior look like? I mean, when they say they're going to board it up, I mean,
Closing off everything in order to keep varmints, vagrancy from happening, or for it getting any worse. And then in time, they're going to start working on getting it cleaned up to be able to be reoccupied. I did inform him that it's going to take a good bit of work, but they seem like they're going to try to do that.
Jeremy, the bid on this was 7,100,
7,100.
It does look to be a little bit larger, maybe twice the size of the majority of the homes that we're looking at have been kind of doing this. Is that why? Or was there anything that was exceptional?
Yes, usually when they're doing on these, a lot of what their bids are based on is weight, because a lot of what the cost them is the fees to get rid of the material, and it is bigger than a lot of the others.
Thank you.
Jeremy, I have a question. You talked about the, I'm sorry, Suzette, I saw you unmute. Were you going to say?
no, go ahead.
Okay, you talked about the owners, I'm sorry, that they're committing to make improvements, but it seems like that might be, there might be quite a bit of improvements required. So would you suggest?
It should. I don't know the full extent of how much it would take to get on there. I've not been inside this property. What I told them at the moment that what we would require in order to give them time would be to board up everything to keep it from further damage than what it is. And I did mention, I told them, there is a lot of opening in the soffits and underneath in the garage area. That would have to be boarded up as well.
So one thing I would wonder about, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry.
You're fine.
I was just curious if the council had a concern about how long the facility would be boarded up, could we attach a time frame in which we would require a building permit to be pulled for those improvements to be made? Is that something that we can have that would accompany the?
I would think we could possibly, in my mind, I would think we could possibly put a time frame on getting a building permit.
Yes.
But a time frame as far as, I mean, a building permit, the length of it is 2 years max.
2 years, yeah. Right.
So I think we could put a time frame on getting a permit to start improvements, but probably not a time frame on finishing them.
I just wondered if that would alleviate any concern about how long because I understand securing it and stabilizing it, but it may be that way for an indefinite period of time. That would eventually kick it back to be a condemned property, most likely based on that condition. If there's no impetus for proceeding with the improvements that they're verbally saying they intend to make. And so if we attach a time frame to get a building permit pulled, whether that be 6 months or whatever, at least there would be another mechanism to revisit this and say that wasn't made good, so it needs to proceed over to the condemnation list.
And I can definitely draft up a letter that does give a time frame. It could be 3 months, it could be 6, whatever the council would suggest. I'd be open to, like I should say.
So Jeremy, is the inside of the home burned as well? I
have not been inside the home. I have not been able to get access to the property. I actually just talked to this person that owned the property about, I believe it was Tuesday of this week. And so that would be something I would ask. I mean, if they're going to get a building permit, I'm going to want to see what's inside of it anyway. I would do that on any property anyhow to make sure that what they're saying they're going to do, they're actually going to do. Or if there's any more need for something to get done, I could see it and say, well, you need to do this as well. So yes, I would want to see the inside of the property, but as of now, I have not seen the inside of it, no.
It almost seems to me that the expense of boarding it up would cost quite a bit of money to the owner. Does this particular owner even live in town? And I'm just curious because, you know, sometimes it's out of sight, out of mind. How long has this house been like this with no remedies?
It's been much longer than I've been here. I know in some of my circles, it's called a different, this house is called by a different name because it used to have a vulgar image spray painted where it's much lighter white right there. And the city covered that up. That was years before I even started. And nothing much has been done. So I do agree with Ryan in the sense that if we do continue on with this one, there is a time frame that needs to be done as far as to move forward.
Suzette, I have a property close to this property. It's probably been not lived in more than 5 to 7 years would be my guess. It has been in pretty bad shape for a while.
Are utilities turned on?
I would doubt it.
Is it the same owner that's had possession of it for this extended period of time?
That's a good question.
To my knowledge, yes, they've been the owner of the property for at least 8 years. I would bet longer than that as well.
And it just seems,
The owner.
Miss Suzette, go ahead.
well, I was just going to say, it just seems like boarding a property up, letting an owner do that is we're not making any progress at all. And it's been this way for, you know, X amount of years. I don't even think the owner lives here, to be honest with you. But just to continue trying to put a Band-Aid on it, I just don't see that we're moving forward at all. I just feel like with the progress we've made in the past, with these condemnations, as long as we are going to be very pro-movement in getting these properties condemned and either torn down and bring the owners to, you know, to the table to take care of them, I just don't see putting a Band-Aid's going to remedy anything.
Okay.
That may be a good point, Suzette. And is that going to set some additional precedents that, all right, you put plywood on all the windows where you're going to get another 6 months out of it?
Exactly.
I'd like to move that we proceed with condemnation on this property rather than just elongating the process and having an eyesore there for another indefinite period of time.
Do I have a second?
So moved.
I do want to say on this one, I wasn't expecting that. I do not have a resolution typed up for this one. So I do need to state that before anything goes. I'll have to get a resolution before we can do that.
Is a resolution?
Is a resolution required for tonight's motion and approval? I'll let Ginger answer that. I don't know.
Yes, I mean, we'd have to have some sort of written document that we'd be approving for it. Now what I mean, again, I tend to be more in favor of trying to get people to fix it than what I think the council is doing. And I think you guys are doing a great job of getting things moving forward. But what Jeremy could do is he could go to the owner and say, okay, look, we were going to condemn it at this meeting. We just didn't have the resolution done. You will be on the next meeting, which could even be a special condemnation meeting set before the next quarter if there isn't some progress made on it. I mean, that way it would have some teeth. it'd kind of give him one last shot, because I think this one, I think what Jeremy was trying to say is this one hasn't had the same attention from his office yet, because it hadn't been on his dockets, that some of these others that have had those letters, repeated letters sent to him and all that. So yes, it's been in bad shape for a long time, but no, it hasn't been cited by the city as much as some of these older properties. So I think that's maybe why he wasn't quite ready for it to go forward, because he hadn't really been involved in this one like he has in the others. And as y'all seen, Jeremy's had some really good results with other property owners, him being there and talking to them and letting them know that, no, we're really serious about getting this done, and seeing if they made progress. So, I mean, my suggestion, since we don't have a resolution, might be that he contact the owner, start that process. And then if there's not some substantial movement on it, we can decide whether to have a special condemnation meeting before the next quarter to handle it.
I could be in favor for that. And then if there's not any movement, maybe our March city council meeting, we can have a what do you call it, Ginger? I've lost the word.
Like a special condemnation meeting, like a one that's not necessarily on our normal quarterly schedule for it. We'd have an extra one.
Yeah, or
Okay.
do it at council maybe.
Sure, that could happen too.
Mr. Mayor, based on that technicality, should
I think Ms. Alice can just retract her motion.
withdraw, okay.
Because we, like Ginger said, we don't even have a written document really to act on. So,
I'll just rescind my motion, but
okay.
my main concern is just that it not sit there like one of the previous properties we looked at that just, languished there for years with essentially no progress. So if we can act on it in a reasonable amount of time, that's fine.
Well, and I can put his feet to the fire a little bit more, and basically, like Ginger said, hey, look, they were wanting to tear this thing down. You're going to have to make significant progress, or we are going to tear it down.
What we could do is have Jeremy bring an update to the city council in February. So 3 weeks from now or so, and give you guys an update on where this may be. And then y'all as a council can make a decision if we want to host a special meeting shortly after.
To make sure that Jeremy has the backing that he needs to proceed in that way, given the fact that we're creating a requirement that supersedes a requirement that he had previously made with the owner. So the owner currently understands that all that will be immediately required is boarding and securing the structure. So Jeremy's next conversation with the owner is to say, we agreed to this, but now I must tell you that's not going to be satisfactory. I don't disagree with the action. I agree with everything that Alice has said and the sentiments here. I 100% agree with it. But what we are doing is putting Jeremy in a position to have to walk back a decision that he did have the authority to make under his administrative capacity. However, he will now be delivering an update, is what it is. It's an update. It's not walking it back. It's saying city council has, I would say, decided to accelerate the condemnation process, in which case it kind of makes the agreement to secure the building basically a moot agreement. I just understand that puts him in a bit of a position to say, I did tell you this, but now I must tell you that's not the case anymore.
Well, I don't think that Jeremy meant for it to be boarded forever either. I think he meant just board it and then start working on it right away. So I don't necessarily think that he misspoke to them so much as maybe we just need to clarify that the time frame is board it and start working on it, not board it and just let it sit there for 20 more years.
Yeah, so maybe it's more of a clarification that the requirement to proceed with improvements is immediate.
And by the way, somebody had asked this question, that the owner has owned that property since 1995, as per AR County data.
Okay.
So to that point, we could see this in the next, at the next condemnation meeting. And if 1995 to now is 26 years. So another 3 months isn't gonna make or break the process. And we could be right back in the same conversation in April or May, whenever we have our second condemnation meeting. So. Okay, we are not going to have a motion to be made. I think we've discussed it at length. Is there any other pardon shots on this property? If not, then I'll ask Jeremy to bring an update to the city council in February. And we'll proceed from there, either have a special meeting or agree to put this property back up for discussion at the second quarter meeting. Okay. All right.
Okay, last on the decision part of it is 216 Frank T. Button. This property's been vacant for a very long time. It's been open air for as long as I know. It's in disrepair. I have talked to the owner. It's bad. I mean, you can, if the light's right where this picture's taken from, you can see almost all the way through to the back door. I mean, it's not good. Talk to the owner about it, explain to him what needs to be done. He told me a long time ago they had intended on cleaning the property up, but the cable and whatnot that they were putting into it kept getting stolen, so they just left it alone. I told him we were going to tear it down. At first, I thought he was going to do it because he did ask me for a list of the potential bidders that were going to bid on tearing it down. Nothing else has happened since then. The price for tearing this one down is $4,700. My motion is to proceed with condemnation on this one.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All right, we got a motion to proceed from Coy Butler, and I got a second from Ms. Suzette Elmore. Any discussion on it? All right, if we don't have any, then take it to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
We need to read it
Aye.
first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thanks you for that. All right.
And I'm sorry, I'm trying to pull it up. Jeremy, the version I sent you today was a little bit different. It just, the one you pulled up on the Zoom screen has Crystal and Chris's name on there, but the AR County data only had Chris's name on there.
Yes,
And I
that's
think-
correct. I mean, I put some on there because I was worried we couldn't get it done. And then when you sent me the correct ones, for some reason, this was my first time sending out the link myself, and I apologize in the confusion at the beginning and of now. But for some reason, when I sent out the link, it made it where I couldn't alter the document anymore. So I couldn't put yours correctly in. So I couldn't touch it anymore. So I just left it, and I knew you'd have the right one anyway.
So what you're saying is the document Ginger's reading off of has the correct property owner's name listed.
Yes.
Yes, and the correct mortgage holder as well. I'm sorry, I meant to read it off of the thing, but I'm pulling it up on my hard drive now. It's not that different, honestly, from what's here. It's just there's a few corrections to it. Okay, so we ready for me then?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
All right, so resolution 1-2-2022, a resolution declaring the property within the city of Lone Oak, Arkansas, located at 216 Frank T. Bunton, Lone Oak, Arkansas, to be a nuisance and condemning same pursuant to Lone Oak City Ordinance number 575. Whereas Arkansas Code Annotated Section 14-56-203 provides that cities of the first class shall have the power to order the removal or raising of, or to remove or raise any buildings or houses that, in the opinion of the council, have become dilapidated, unsightly, unsafe, unsanitary, obnoxious, or detrimental to the public welfare. And whereas Arkansas Code Annotated Section 14-56-203 furthermore provides that said cities of the first class shall provide by ordinance the manner of removing and making the above referenced removals. Whereas on or about March 10th, 2008, the City Council of the City of Lone Oak, Arkansas, the city enacted and passed ordinance number 575, the effect of which was to provide for the condemnation and removal of houses, buildings, and/or structures constituting a nuisance within the corporate limits, providing for lien thereof, thereon and providing a penalty therefore. And whereas pursuant to the requirements contained in Lonoke City Ordinance number 575, the Lonoke City Council wishes and desires to pass a resolution declaring certain houses, buildings, and/or structures to be a nuisance to the city of Lonoke and its citizens and condemning same. And whereas the properties hereby condemned are affecting the citizens of the city of Lonoke and are in violation of said citizens' rights to lawfully use and enjoy their properties and furthermore constitute an unreasonable and unwarrantable use of property producing a material annoyance, inconvenience, and discomfort to all citizens of the city of Lonoke. And now therefore be it resolved that the following described property together with any existing houses, buildings, and or structures thereon owned by the persons set forth below be and the same is hereby found and declared to be a nuisance by the City Council of the City of Lonoke, Arkansas for the reasons set forth below, and the same shall be and hereby is condemned to ensure the removal thereof as provided in Lonoke City Ordinance number 585. Property address 216 Frank T. Bunton, Lonoke, Arkansas. Property owner Joseph Chivers. Mortgagee, New Residential Mortgage LLC, assignee of Ditech Financial LLC. Reason for condemnation: property is vacant and has fallen into severe disrepair so as to make it uninhabitable, with holes in walls and floor and ceiling falling through, animal/rodent infestation, and other damage. Property is dilapidated, unsightly, unsafe, unsanitary, obnoxious, or detrimental to the public welfare. See attached photographs which are incorporated herein by reference. This resolution is hereby passed and approved on this 20th day of January 2022.
Thanks, Ginger. So I've got a motion to adopt resolution 1/2/2022, I believe, by Coy Butler, and again, seconded by Alice Bridges. Ryan, would you back me up on that? Thank you. Any other discussion points? Sorry, Ryan, you're muted. I saw your mouth moving.
Sorry, I have Miss Elmore was the second on that one.
Okay, thank you. So motion by Coy and seconded by Ms. Elmore. All right. Hearing no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Resolution passes. All right.
Okay, this is where we are with the budget from 30,000 from our yearly budget. We did do the 5,550. It's getting billed for the condemnation that we already approved on 318 Harrison. So far, we've done 3 titles this year. That's the expenses on the notice. Ginger, I'm sorry, I did not know what legal fees were, so I just threw a number at it. So just so we have something there, which leaves the remaining $23,431.50. And those are the costs of the 2 items. So obviously, since we're condemning those, there's the minus 4,700 for the Frank T. Button. And what was the motion in that motion on the 416 Washington? Was that to condemn that one as well?
We have a motion for, or we had a pass for.
It was to move on it, yes. And that's the discussion you had, Jeremy. Said you don't think 4,700 would be that. You think 47 is too much to cover the remaining cost of, because that when you got the estimate, it was in a different state than it is currently.
It was in a different state. So that's just kind of where that's the cost that it was. So that's what's left on those 2 items that we decided to move forward on. If we're moving forward on as is, like we talked about, that's the price of them. So that's, what is that, 9,400? Subtract that from 2,300, and that's what will be left. So $14,031.50 would be what would be remaining for the rest of the year.
That's
And
correct.
just as a note on the Washington one, we didn't read that resolution because I think we'd actually already condemned it before, hadn't we?
I recall that we have, but
But if, I mean, we could go ahead and read it again, just to make sure we're good.
let's do that.
Okay. Would somebody like to make a motion to put the condemnation resolution on the floor for 416 Washington Street?
So moved, Coy Butler.
Second, Alice.
Okay, this is resolution. Oh, sorry.
ahead.
This is resolution.
That one's not going to be correct on there either, Ginger. So you may want to pull that one up.
Right. I'm reading it off my computer instead of the Zoom, but I mean, it's close like the other one was, but there's a few little changes to it. All right, this one will be resolution 1-2-2022, I believe.
No,
a
ma'am.
res-
No, ma'am.
1-1.
Do what?
Isn't it 1-1? We just approved 1-2.
Correct.
Okay, sure. This is 1-1 then. Thank you. 1-1-2022, a resolution declaring the property within the city of Lonoke, Arkansas, located at 416 Washington Street, Lonoke, Arkansas, to be a nuisance and condemning same pursuant to Lonoke City Ordinance number 575. Whereas Arkansas Code Annotated Section 14-56-2 provides that cities of the first class shall have the power to order the removal or raising of, or to remove or raise any buildings or houses that, in the opinion of the council, have become dilapidated, unsightly, unsafe, unsanitary, obnoxious, or detrimental to the public welfare. And whereas Arkansas Code Annotated Section 14-56-203 furthermore provides that said cities of first class shall provide by ordinance the manner or removing of reference removal. And whereas on or about March 10th, 2008, the City Council for the City of Lonoke, Arkansas, the city enacted and passed Ordinance number 575, the effect of which was to provide for the condemnation and removal of houses, buildings, and/or structures constituting a nuisance within the corporate limits, providing for a lien thereon and providing a penalty therefore. Pursuant to the requirements contained in Lonoke City Ordinance number 575, the Lonoke City Council wishes and desires to pass a resolution declaring certain houses, buildings, and/or structures to be a nuisance to the City of Lonoke and its citizens and condemning same. Whereas the properties hereby condemned are affecting the citizens of the City of Lonoke and are in violation of said citizens' rights to lawfully use and enjoy their properties, and furthermore constitute an unreasonable and unwarrantable use of property and producing a material annoyance, inconvenience, and discomfort to all citizens of the City of Lonoke. And resolved that the following described property, together with any existing houses, buildings, and/or structures thereon owned by the person set forth below, be and the same is hereby found and declared to be a nuisance by the City Council of the City of Lonoke, Arkansas, for the reasons set forth below, and the same shall be and hereby is condemned to ensure the removal thereof, as provided in Lonoke City Ordinance number 585. Property address 416 Washington, Lonoke County, Arkansas. Property owner Large Time LLC in care of Matt Wells, Mortgagee, Bank of England. Reason for condemnation: property is vacant and has fallen into severe disrepair so as to make it unlivable, with holes in the walls, broken and missing windows, fire damage, and other damage. Property is dilapidated, unsightly, unsafe, unsanitary, obnoxious, or detrimental to the public welfare. See attached photographs, which are incorporated herein by reference. This resolution is hereby passed and approved this 20th day of January 2022.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Actually, just a clarification. Ms. Bridges, you were the second to that, to Coy Butler's motion. Is that accurate? Did I get that right?
Yes.
That's
Okay.
great.
And then the point of order is because there was an initial motion early in the meeting to proceed with condemnation. This is a procedural vote to read the resolution. So they're paired with one another, but two separate motions. Accurate?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to a vote. All in favor? Say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, carries. What do we got left, Jeremy?
The three coming up.
All right, three properties, 202 Adams, 619 College, and 601 Hicks.
Okay, 202 Adams. It is on, I'm kind of dubbed this in the Where Is It house, but it's on Adams and Ash. There's why, where is it? During the fall, you can't see it at all. I mean, it's literally just, it's so covered up in brush that you can't even tell it's there. It's in bad disrepair, no power to it for I don't know how long. You cannot drive by that house without seeing 4 or 5 cats. And in the warmer months, you can actually usually see 2 or 3 that are just hanging out on the roof. So this one, I think, is just, it just needs to go. And I'd just like to proceed with that one. The next house is 619 College. This one is over close to the high school. I guess what, a several months ago, there was a big tree that fell down in the front yard of that one. The owners of it did remove that house or remove the tree and all of that, but the house itself is in bad shape. If you scroll down one, yeah, there's some bad damage. There is, I'm pretty certain there's fire damage at some point on it, because you can see from some of the siding,
Mhm.
it's a little bit bowed and melted a little bit. I'm hoping that the owner will step up and fix all of this. I would assume they would, but either way, I'd like to try to force their hand on that. And there's a lot of, obviously see the moss growing up on the roof. That's not a good sign either. And then the final house it's a duplex, 601, 603 Hicks. It's on the corner of Hicks and Holly. No one's living there. No one's lived there forever. I would assume there's massive water damage inside because the entire roof is tarps. It's just in bad shape as well. I'm pretty sure that it would end up needing to be torn down.
Jeremy, there's also an old pickup truck, this Chevy that's been sitting out on that.
It's an odd situation. There's an old Chevy truck right there. This lot that it's showing, if you'll go back to the overhead map, it's actually kind of a strange scenario. There's actually two properties on that single lot that's on that corner. There's that duplex, and then there's another smaller house that's right next to it that are both the same owner. So I'm guessing the owner has let that duplex just fall in the disrepair and are occupying the building next to it. So it's kind of a strange lot as it is, that there's two houses on the lot. It's just kind of odd. But those are the three that I'm looking to move forward with at this time.
Jeremy, a couple of questions. That's a pretty cool truck, by the way. I'm just going to say. Have you spoken with any of the owners? Do you know the owners?
I have not spoken with any of the owners yet on any of these properties. These are just three that I'm looking at the moment.
Okay.
Jimmy, I got a question for you on this property, 619 College.
Yes,
It's sizable.
it is very sizable. Yeah.
I'm thinking that, once you deduce 9,400 from 23,000, you get 14,000 left. That may or may not put us in a position to not move very far in the rest of the the year here.
That's
I don't know about this one. It's also a large size house too. So we'll just have to look at the cost estimates when they come in. But price for these three might be considerable. This is lots of brick too. So
It is.
Yeah, I think I agree with you that we would be mindful that that the brick.
That's a very fair point on all of those, which that'll go to. There's another thing that I'm possibly considering for future condemnations is we did a really good job last year and got a whole lot of buildings down. And I'm actually looking at the possibility of going after some like accessory structures that people have that need to be torn down in lieu of full-on buildings, so that we're still making process, but we're not taking on a possible big number item like 619 College or something like that. So progress is still being made, but it's not at too much cost to the city if the owner chooses to do nothing.
Jeremy, on that note, I'm going to put you on the spot, but please feel free to defer to a future session to answer. But do you happen to just kind of have a gauge on where we're at working through a list of potential properties? We're tackling about 3 a quarter, and so there's a maximum number that we're going to be able to handle, plus the limitations of the budget allocation. But in terms of progress, do you have a way that you would measure that, or say, hey, I've got X number and we're about this far towards getting those done? If you don't, it's okay. I'm just kind of
I
curious.
don't really have a number. I don't really have a number. I guess I can just say that I do understand that these we have moved on several already, and so I am trying to be contingent to where I don't want to reach a point to where, say, after this quarter or even the following quarter, I have to say, well, we can't proceed anymore. And so I am trying to look at it in a sense of as far as like saying with the accessory buildings or smaller projects, to try to find ones that we can do and still proceed, but try to find the most cost-effective way of doing it. I threw college on there because, yeah, I'm aware that one would be a very expensive one to tear down, but it's like I used to do with all of them like last year, and I'm still kind of trying to do this year, is like, this one, I hope the owner steps up. The duplex one, I'm pretty certain we'll probably have to proceed all the way through to have it torn down. And the one in the what is it, 202 is one that I just need to investigate more to figure out who owns it, what they're going to do with that, what the whole possibility is. All I know is from the last I checked with that one was that I thought it was in probate several years ago before I was even there. And I don't know what the state of it is right now. But I don't know if that fully answered your question, but that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Satisfied. Yeah, I'm just kind of curious if you've been keeping track, because I'm saying that by way of noting that the progress is noticeable, and just having an ability to quantify that and say, kind of look how far we come as a point of momentum and as a point of saying,
well, that's kind of where I'm trying to look at other options, because last year I did really well, but I did pursue a lot of them that I knew would either get torn down by the owner or would be taken care of.
Which is a measure
Those are kind of gone.
Sure.
So now it's more of a fight.
Sure.
Would it be worthwhile to at least contact the owners of these three that you have on the list, just to see what their thinking is?
I can kind of do the same thing that I've been asked to do with the Fifth Street one. I can try to contact all of these owners, or at least get more information on them, and I can add that to my report in February.
Okay.
And just kind of give an update of, hey, these are who the owners are. This, I've talked to them, or I haven't been able to get a hold of them, or whatever I can find out on them.
Jeremy, I have a question. For instance, the house on College Street, it's a little over 2,400 square feet, heated and cooled. If we were to move forward, tearing down a house like that, for instance, is there ever any value in the brick that comes away from the house, or one of the other ones you just showed, like the French doors? Do we have a resource that would actually want to come in and purchase those items?
There is an option in part of the condemnation ordinance that the city can hold. I'm not sure if it says auction or sale. I'm not sure, but to where any valuables can be purchased off the property before it is moved on with. And the proceeds from anything bought in those goes to the cost of the tearing down of the property. And if by some reason the money that there's pulled in is more than the cost of tearing it down, then that obviously goes to the owner of the property. So there is an avenue, yes.
To piggyback on what Ms. Elmore is discussing, I would suggest locating a salvage vendor who could essentially make a determination of value and provide a bid for salvaging a number of things here. Brick is certainly one of them. I think the windows are steel windows on this.
Yeah.
You know, this looks like a 1940s, originally 1940s-ish. You know, can you say again what you just said, Jeremy, about ownership? In other words, do we have the ability to do that? Does that go in the city's pocket, or does that go back to the owner? What's the legal, or this is a different question?
If it's moved forward with condemnation, you can hold any kind of, you can't hold sale of what items are on that. Because of course, when the condemnation's done, you give notice that it's going to be condemned, which gives them, I can't remember if it's 10 days or 14 days to remove anything they would like to off of the property. At that point, the city can salvage or sell what is on the property of value. Any proceeds from that go into the cost of tearing down the building.
Got it.
Anything, if for some reason what you sell goes over the cost of tearing down the building, that money goes to the owner, not the city doesn't get to profit off of it, obviously.
Say that one more time.
If whatever the condemnation cost is, any money that's raised over that goes
Got
back
it.
to the owner because the city can't profit off of
Yep.
it.
Understood. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm thinking even like looking at this front door, you've got this steel front door, wrought iron that's worth some value. And then you think about the heating and cooling units, if they're newer, if they've been replaced. It just seems like instead of destroying everything, there would be some value, especially in a house, of this substance.
Mhm.
Hey, Jeremy, that house burned, it's been about 2 years ago now. That's Emily Roberts. It's Miss Wilson's house. That was her mother.
Okay. Well, I was assuming it had burned.
She
'cause you
did.
could see some of it.
We looked at trying to buy that from her for Aunt Molly before she moved here and tearing it down. She didn't want it torn down because she grew up in that house. But Roseanne had heard that she had a buyer for it. So I don't know that for sure. But
That is correct.
Emily herself is not going to put the money into it, I don't think.
It shows that it was sold in December of 2020 to
Okay.
Gray Properties in Carlisle.
Okay, so she did sell it. Yeah, it's been an eyesore because it burned out. I could see it from my house, the backside where it burned.
Mr. Mayor, do we need a motion to?
Yeah, I think, we typically take a motion to put these properties on the list so that Jeremy can start working on them and bring them back at the second quarter to be acted on.
And to clarify, they will be joining 415 West Fifth, which we made a similar action to. Right.
That is correct, yeah. So, but 415 West, Miss Alice made a motion tonight. Like we said, we didn't have a document to act on. So if the council prefers to get an update at February city council meeting and decides it'd be in the best interest of the city to host a special session, then we can get a resolution drafted for 415 West Fifth, so long as I guess procedurally all the notices have been given that need to be given.
It would be an acceleration of that property.
Yeah, if not, then 415 will be on the second quarter condemnation, at the second quarter condemnation meeting, along with 202, 619, and 601.
Understood. Thank you.
And I will have more information on all of these properties as well at that same time.
And this is up to the council. There's 3 properties here. If we need to put 2 on the list, then we can put 2 on the list. It's the council's decision.
So we need a motion at this point.
We do.
I make a motion that we put these 3 on the list.
Okay, I got a motion to put all 3 on the list. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Miss Alice. I got a motion by Coy Butler and a second by Miss Alice Bridges. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Jeremy, you got anything else for the council this evening?
That is all I have.
All right. Are there any announcements from the council? All right. Well, Jeremy, I'll take 2 seconds just again, pat you on the back and say thanks for, all the work that you're putting into this program by in and of itself. And I think a couple of times some of the council members tonight have made reference to the amount of progress that we've made with the $30,000 budget over the last year and a half. So I'm feeling comfortable, especially as the mayor, that we've got a process that the council's comfortable with, that seems to be working well and paying dividends for the community, and I hope folks are taking notice of that. So other than that, we will bring an update on 415 West Fifth to the council in February, and expect to see you guys at the next second quarter condemnation meeting with the list of the 3 that we just provided. And I hope you guys all have a good evening. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Corey Butler.
Any opposed? You guys have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Jeremy.
Yes, Jeremy.